Well, the 2023 season was not a very good one for the Buffalo Bulls, and they're going to be looking to get back on track. That's what 2024 is all about, yet it's going to be a difficult ask. They're losing a really good piece at quarterback along with a ton of other offensive and defensive weapons, but despite all of that, is Buffalo going to be ready to contend for a spot back in a bowl game in 2024? You're about to find out what I think here in this video. What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. I'd like to welcome you to my channel and, of course, welcome you back to prediction season, which is just about a week away. In fact, under a week away from being concluded. I want to thank you guys so much for not only watching this video because it does help support my channel in a lot more ways than you can even imagine, but for supporting prediction season as a whole. And hey, please continue to do anything you guys can to help support the channel, whether that's liking, commenting, sharing, watching my other videos. Anything you do helps. And if you want to hear what I have to say during the college football season, it means you're just as big of a college football nerd as I am, and you got to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you know when all of my videos get uploaded during the 2024 college football season. It is so close to finally being here, but now we got to start diving on in. Let's talk about Buffalo Bull football. How do we do that? Well, first off, we'll take a deep dive into the team's offense, into the defense, and then at the end of the video, we'll dive in to the Buffalo football schedule and give it a game-by-game preview and prediction. There are a couple more things I want to say before we do get started, because right over here will be the stats a team put up either offensively or defensively last season. And of course, for your viewing pleasure, right down there below the team's logo, I went ahead and put the team's coaching staff. Your head coach is Pete Lembo. And let's dive on in to what Lembo's squad is going to look like here in 2024. We'll start out with the offense as per usual, but in order to know what the offense is going to look like this year, we got to know what it looked like last season. And it is losing a very vital and important piece of this offense from last year. That would be the quarterback, Cole Snyder. It is the most important position on the field after all, but last year, 2,109 yards, 13 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. Now, look, that's still solid-ish quarterback play out of Cole Snyder, but nothing compared to what he did in 2022. Granted, he threw almost 100 more passes in 2022 than he did in 2023, but still, back in 2022, 3,030 yards, 18 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. He was a really good player for this team overall throughout his career. He has transferred over to Eastern Michigan to replace and fill in the quarterback need that the Eagles have over there. So he's kind of transferring within conference here, and the two teams actually get to play each other this season. But you are losing a very vital, important piece of this offense in Cole Snyder, and he will definitely be missed by this team at the quarterback position. But nonetheless, you got to work with what you got, and while you bring in a transfer portal piece in Jack Shields, he's over from Old Dominion, and I think he could contend for the starting job pretty well. I believe CJ Ogbonna, and hopefully I'm saying that name right. I think he's going to end up being the starter for you this year, but you got to see improvement from his game. Last season, 8 of 21, and for all you math nerds, that's only 38% completion, but 8 of 21 is just how I'm going to say it because, I mean, it's a low sample size. 87 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions for Ogbonna last season. I mean, hey, he has played some pretty significant minutes here. You go all the way back to 2021. He threw for 1,500 yards, had 12 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. That was back over when he was at Southeast Missouri State. Again, transferred over to Buffalo last season, and now we'll get a shot to be that starting quarterback. Last season as well, showed the ability with the legs. 214 yards and 3 touchdowns for him. He had a pretty similar season during 2021 at SEMA, where he had 350-some yards and also 3 touchdowns. He was actually the team's fourth leading rusher last season. I defined it here. He was the team's 4th leading rusher last year. Gunnar Gray is also coming back, but I think it's going to be Ogbonna that gets that starting role. Again, you got to see improvement from him, at least what he showed last year, and maybe in a lot of other ways as well in that passing game, but you know that you're going to get some ability with the legs there as well, and I think he's going to be the starting option for the Bulls here in 2024. Running back room, let's talk about it. You do lose a couple really good pieces as Ron Cooks Jr. is gone due to graduation. Cook, not Cooks, my apologies. You are going to be getting him gone here out of this room. I was going to say you're going to get him coming back, but you are going to be losing him out of this running back room. Again, Ron Cook Jr., leading rusher for the team last season. 609 yards, 6 touchdowns on a team-high 148 carries. And what do you know? Your second leading rusher in Mike Washington is gone and off through the transfer portal. 362 yards, 2 touchdowns. He, I believe, yes, is transferring over to New Mexico State. So What do you return in this running back room? Well, it really is going to be mainly two guys, as well as a lot of depth pieces that are just going to have to play some bigger roles. Again, if you want to find out more, Buffalo fans, leave some names in the comment section below. You can also go look at their roster, but it is going to be these two guys mainly doing the running back duties for the Bulls this season. It'll be Jacques Barksdale, who's going to be leading this rushing attack. Was the third leading rusher last year, had 248 yards, 2 touchdowns on 52 carries, and actually among the three names that I've mentioned so far out of this running back room, he had the highest yards per carry average with 4.8. Now, all the guys had at least a 4.0. Ron Cook had a 4.0. Mike Washington had a 4.1. Barksdale with a 4.8. So he's looking to carry that into the lead running back role this year. And Lamar Sperling will play second fiddle to what Barksdale's going to do out of the running back room this season. Wide receiver room, you lose a ton of pieces here. Marlon Johnson is going to be gone through the portal. Leading receiver last year, 495 yards, 4 touchdowns on a team high 40 catches, but you're losing a lot more guys due to graduation. Johnson was your top receiver. How about your second, third, and fourth leading receiver are also going to be gone? That's the likes of Daryl Harding Jr., Boobie Curry, and Cole Harity. All three of those guys have run out of eligibility and graduated. Ron Cook Jr. was that fifth leading receiver, and then your seventh leading receiver, and the leading receiver among tight ends, Cameron Ball, is also off and gone through the transfer portal. So you lose 1 through 5 and number 7 out of the receiving category. Hey, just means number 6 is coming back. He's going to be in contention to be that lead receiver this season. It's Nick McMillan. He'll be joined by Chance Morrow, Victor Snow, and Quas Sanders in this wide receiver room, as well as some other depth pieces that'll have to step up and play some big minutes. But you also are getting 2 transfers coming in here to this room. You're getting J.J. Jenkins over, who's coming over from Columbia, and then Taji Johnson is coming over from Boston College. Now, both of these guys, as projected by ourlads.com, figure to be starting role players for the Buffalo Bulls this season. I tend to agree. I think they're going to play some pretty big roles. It'll be right there with Nick McMillan towards the top of the receiving board for the Bulls. And then the tight end room, well, Jake Orlando, and a really fun name to say, and Andrew Schnackenberg is going to be coming back in the tight end room, and you do get Evan King coming over there through the transfer portal, I believe. I'll fact check where he's from. Okay, I would have had it right, but it's always good to check. He's coming over from Hampton. Now to the offensive line room. Lose a lot of guys due to graduation. Gabe Wallace, Nick Beans, and Sidney Walker are all gone, as well as Isaiah Wright, who entered the transfer portal. So your offensive line room in 2024 looks like this. Dama Polizzi, Tyler Dottie, however you pronounce the last name, Kalen Shepard, Henry Tabansi, and Trevor Brock are returned to the offensive line room, while Gabriel Arena and Chase Chadwick are a couple of the many transfers that come in here, but I think those two will play the biggest role on the offensive line for the Bulls this season. Combination of those 7 guys, I think will end up being that starting offensive line out of the gates there in week 1. So overall in this offense, what can you expect out of the Buffalo Bulls? Well, CJ Ogbonna, I think if he can improve his passing from where it was last year, I think you're going to get solid quarterback play from him. Running back room, I think, is going to be fairly solid. You got some good players, especially those transfers coming in this wide receiver room. I think even Evan King is going to play a pretty big part to this offense this season. The offensive line, again, helped the run game get 133.6 yards per game. You probably want to be a little bit better than that, but they did only allow 17 sacks last year, yet you got to replace a lot of that talent. So it's just a lot of fill and replace. How can the guys that were in depth roles last year play the bigger roles? That's especially true in the wide receiver room. And how good is CJ Ogbonna going to be? The biggest question, obviously, we'll see what happens with the Bulls offense here in 2024. You take a look at the Buffalo Bulls, the defense this upcoming season, and, well, they're going to be losing a lot of talent as well. And 2 guys are gone off to the NFL. We'll mention the second guy here in a second, but look, this secondary, not that bad last year. And honestly, when I say not that bad, really pretty darn good. 187 passing yards per game allowed, and that was it. That's a pretty good number there, but 179, almost 180, I mean pretty much 180 rushing yards per game is not a good number. That's exactly what you want to get back, and, well, they're going to be losing a ton, and I mean a ton of guys out of this defensive line room. And again, I said 2 guys are leaving to the NFL. Well, one of them is one of the pieces they're losing off the defensive line. That is a guy by the name of Damon Williams. Now, the stat line with him is not going to blow you away. Only had 21 tackles, 1 sack, did get a pass defended in their last season as well. But overall, I mean, I believe he got signed, if not declared for the draft at least, but you definitely could see him playing on Sundays. But then a ton of guys are gone due to graduation. Your sack leader from last year and your leading tackler from the defensive front and Max Michel, gone. 46 tackles and 5 sacks. And again, just a ton of other guys. Another guy off the edge in Jair Stevens. Damon Williams is on there twice, actually. So apologies for that. And yes, I do want to clarify Damon Williams did get invited, I believe, to the Buccaneers minicamp. Could be wrong about that, but again, definitely could see him playing on Sunday. So that's where he's off to. But now to continue with the graduates, along with Michelle and Stevens, Devonio Lofton, and Jalen Bass are some names that'll be leaving this defensive line room. So all in all, again, a lot of really good talent is gone from the defensive front. You do get a couple of pretty nice returning pieces, though. You do get George Wolo coming back. He had 3.5 sacks last year. That was second on the team. And CJ Bazil is a pretty good edge rusher slash linebacker. He can kind of play on the defensive front and the linebacking position, but he had 20 tackles and 2 sacks last season. Deshaun Folsom, Cornell Evans, some other guys that return, as well as you bring in a ton of pretty talented transfers there. Kobe Stewart is in, figures to play the biggest role out of anyone on this defensive front. Antonio Colclaw, hopefully I'm saying that name right, Colclaw, however you say that last name, and Tristan Sousa will be coming in through the portal as well. Now, linebacker room, very important piece here gone. Leading tackler in Joe Andreessen, 89 tackles, 1 sack, couple pass defended, a very, very good player that is now probably going to end up being playing on Sundays. And I think, ironically enough, I think he went to the Buffalo Bills. I'm going to fact check that right now. He did. So, ironically enough, he's going to stay in the same city. He transitions from the Bulls to the Bills, as you could see him playing on Sundays. Okay, when you talk about the linebacker room coming back, though, still a lot of really good pieces. Red Murdoch is back, 58 tackles, 2 sacks for him last year. Sean Dolak is back after initially entered the portal. Then I think he retracted his name. If not, it looked like he was going to leave the program, but decided to come back. He had 31 tackles and an interception last season. Deion Crawford and Gio De Leon are some other linebackers that you'll see playing for the Bulls this season. Defensive back room, we got to talk about it now. Cornerback room, well, you do lose a really good one there through the portal in at Caleb Offord. Now, while the tackling number isn't going to blow you away, he only had 12 tackles. And in the playing time he got, though, he did have 4 passes defended. So pretty solid player there in his own right. He is going to be gone again. He's off through the portal. And you also do lose Amonte Strothers, who was gone due to graduation. Again, another guy that just had 12 tackles last season. But safety room, this is where you take a big hit because Devin Grant is gone and off through the portal. A very, very talented safety you're going to see now playing for the Syracuse Orange. Second leading tackler with 79 tackles, had 3 pass defended, and led the team with 5 interceptions last year, including 2 pick sixes. Yeah, Syracuse known for having some really good defensive backs. Of course, they have a former defensive back coach, and Fran Brown now is their head coach. They're getting a really good one when Devin Grant transfers over there. And then Demetrius Harris is gone due to graduation. Pretty solid safety in his own right there. 14 tackles, 2 pass defended last season. So when you talk about the defensive back room and who it all consists of this season, well, you do still get a guy that had 3 interceptions last season back in your cornerback room. That is Charles McCartherins. You also do get Clavester Hines and Jaden Oliver back here in this cornerback room, while Oliver Bridges is a transfer coming into this program, figures to play some pretty good minutes for you. Marcus Fuqua is going to be coming back in the safety room. 4th leading tackler last season, had 56 tackles, a pass defended as well. Solomon Brown is another pretty important piece. He was a top 10 tackler last year. I think he's going to end up playing that nickelback position for the team this year. Jonathan Capo and Jaden Lewis also return, as well as Savion Brown coming in through the transfer portal. Special teams, because, hey, kickers are people too. We got to show them some love. You do get Alex McNulty now over to the NFL. You could definitely see him playing on Sundays. A really good kicker for this team, and Anthony Veneri is a punter from last year that entered the transfer portal. You do return Nick Reed to sort of try to fill that gap for Alex McNulty, but you are bringing in some pieces through the transfer portal. Ethan Dwayne is coming over, as well as Cameron Carson. Carson and Reed going to battle out for the kicking duties, but Ethan Dwayne is a transfer. I'll tell you from where here. I had a feeling Old Dominion, who's going to be the primary punter for this team this season. So all in all, when you take a look, you got a lot to fill in on the defensive line, but you did pretty well for yourself there in the transfer portal. And again, you're losing some really good pieces in the secondary, but I think the secondary is still going to be relatively solid, still pretty good for the Bulls this year. It is up to that pass rush to improve. It is up for that rush defense to improve. 20 plus sacks. Can you get to that number? Can you hold opponents to under I'll say 150 at least, maybe 130 rush yards per game. You need that part of the defense to improve if you're going to want to see better success than you did last year here in 2024. But now you dive on into the schedule for the Bulls, and it looks like this. Any game at home is going to be underlined. Well, any game on the road is in italics, guys, or that slanted text. Any game you see in green is a game that I think the Bulls are going to win fairly easily. Spoiler alert, there's going to be none of those. Any game in yellow, like this one here against Lafayette, it could be a pretty solid team out of the FCS ranks, and I think Buffalo's just going to have their struggles this season, but they are going to be able to get that win. And any game in red, of course, is a loss, like this one against the Missouri Tigers. Buffalo's just not going to beat Missouri, especially not in Columbia. Brady Cook is back. Luther Burden is back. Yes, you lose Blake Baker, but I still think the defense is going to be pretty solid for you. And Missouri's a college football playoff contender. Buffalo will not be winning that game. But now, here is a game to where might shock a lot of you prediction-wise. The UMass Minutemen. Now, look, UMass, ever since they've been an FBS program, I don't think has had anything more than, I'll say, 4 or 5 wins. I don't think they've ever made a bowl game as an FBS program. That very well is probably not going to end up changing this season, but UMass feels like a program that is starting to trend in the right direction under Don Brown, and I think that continues in a lot of ways this season. You get Tyson Fulmacon coming back at quarterback, and yes, you do lose some pretty talented pieces. You're getting a lot of really good ones over from the transfer portal, including Frank Ladson Jr., who I think is going to be a good piece for you in the wide receiver room. I got this one being an upset here. I think UMass is going to go on the road and beat the Buffalo Bulls. Buffalo is going to see their struggles this year. I think CJ Ogbonna is going to give you guys some solid quarterback play. There's going to be some solid things that happen all around this Buffalo team, but you lost a ton from last season. I think it's a big ask for an entirely new quarterback system to fill and form chemistry with an entirely new group of offensive linemen. It's just going to be a really tough ask for this team, and UMass is a team that, even though they lose Tobias Merriweather, a lot of other important pieces from last year, are still going to be competitive. It's just a game where I kind of have a feeling here, and the upset happens. I think Buffalo loses to UMass, and I also think they lose to the Northern Illinois Huskies. This is a team in Northern Illinois that has seen their ups and downs under Thomas Hammock. It's always been sort of a roller coaster with him, but I do think that they're going to start seeing some consistency this season. They were pretty good last year. I think they're going to stay good this season. Got a lot of really nice returning talent, as well as some good transfers coming in. And NIU could contend for a MAC title this season. And the losing woes continue for Buffalo. They go on the road and lose, yes, to UConn. Some really good transfers coming in there. Coaching staff, the head coach's name is escaping my mind. Jim Mora, that's right. I don't know how I could have forgotten that, but you are going to be bringing him back as the head coach. Nick Evers is coming in at quarterback, and while you haven't really seen him play, you figure he's going to play, give you some good things. Really good transfers coming into the wide receiver room. Really good transfers coming in all over the defensive side. UConn's going to be at least this close to getting into a bowl game this year, if not get there. UConn will be beating the Buffalo Bulls this season. And even though you get your first bye week right here, look, you're on a 4-game losing streak. You lose a couple games that you feel like you could have won, being UMass and UConn. You get to come back home, and well, welcome to the Mid-American Conference play, or I should say welcome back to, because you already played Northern Illinois. You got to play the Toledo Rockets. I don't think you're going to have much luck with this one either. Toledo, going to be a very good football team here this season. And yes, I know they lose to Quan Finn, they lose Penny Boone, but a lot of that wide receiver room stays intact. I think Tucker Gleason's going to give you good quarterback play. You lose some really important defensive pieces, such as Dallas Ganton, Quinion Mitchell, but you got some good pieces there. Jason Candle might be the best coach in the Mid-American Conference, and Toledo will still contend for a MAC title this season, so that is going to be a win for the Rockets, meaning a loss for the Buffalo Bulls, but they are going to be able to get back on track with a win against the Western Michigan Broncos. Now, even though Western Michigan is returning Hayden Wolf at the quarterback position, even though they got a lot of wide receiver pieces that are coming back there to that team, as well as some really good defensive pieces, there's just going to be some games this year. And look, it may happen with UMass. It may happen with the UConn. And hey, this is the Mid-American Conference. It can be really unpredictable. Maybe it happens with Toledo or one of these other games coming up here where Buffalo's going to be able to put everything together, meaning you're going to get a complete game out of CJ Ogbonna. The offensive line is going to be running really, really well. The run game is going to be running really well. The defense is going to be able to go like this and figure everything out. And this just happens to be one of those games. Buffalo's got it at home. They're going to be itching to get back in that win column. And Western Michigan, I think, is a very beatable team for them. So Buffalo, I think, wins that one. But then they see their struggles here in these next two games. You got a road game here against the Ohio Bobcats. And even though the Bobcats lose a lot from last year, their starting quarterback in Rourke is gone, your top two rushers are gone, some really good wide receiver pieces, really good piece on the offensive line, really good defensive pieces. I mean, they are one of the worst teams in terms of returning production this season. Tim Albin's one of the better head coaches in the conference. I think they're going to prove to still be a really solid side. And Ohio, definitely, if everything goes well, can contend for the Mid-American Conference Championship. Bobcats will still be good. They'll beat the Bulls and the Zips. Look, I don't think Akron is going to be good this year. I'll be flat out honest with you. They lose a ton of production off of last year's team, and I just think it's going to be a struggle for the Zips this year. However, in saying that, much like with what I've been saying with the Buffalo Bulls, there's going to be a game or two here where everything fits together for Akron. And again, this is the Buffalo team that I just don't love. Even though I love a lot of pieces individually, I'm not in love with the team as a collective unit. And I think Akron's going to be able to pull this one off before your second bye week. And then you have Max and play to close you out the rest of the way. And I think you win. I do think that you win a couple of these. I just don't think it's going to be this one against the Ball State. Or I should say, not a couple. I think you win at least one of these Maction games. Ball State very well could be the one, as I'm not a big fan of Caden, or I should say, I do like Caden Zamans at the quarterback position. I like a lot of the pieces, again, individually for Ball State, but fitting together as a collective team, I don't think it's going to go too well for the Cardinals this year, yet I think they have some more talent than what Buffalo possesses, so that's a win for me for the Ball State Cardinals, meaning a loss for the Bulls. I don't think you're going to go on the road and beat Eastern Michigan. Cole Snyder is going to be able to beat his former team. He's going to give a boost to that Eastern Michigan offense, which was just purely awful last season. That's going to get a lot better for the Eagles this year, and it'll be a win for the Eagles against the Buffalo Bulls. But, hey, even though I think Kent State's going to get a lot better this season, I think it's going to be a win for you. There's still going to be a couple games where Kent State is going to falter, and I don't think the road games are going to be too kind for the Golden Flashes this year. So that's a win for the Bulls, leading me, guys, to a record of 3-9. I'm just not a big fan of the Bulls this season. Yes, CJ Agbana, I think, is going to provide solid quarterback play. Yes, I know they got some good pieces, but you're asking for a lot to go right with a lot of change. You got a lot of change offensively, a lot of change defensively, and I just don't think it's all going to go that well for the Bulls this season. Still a fairly solid year individually from a lot of guys, but as a team, I got 3-9. Could be one of the worst teams in the Mid-American Conference, at least record-wise and possibly statistically-wise this season as well. But I want to know what you guys think. The upside is still high with this team. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder, and we'll talk about the New Mexico State Aggies in my next video. Goodbye.